Hey, welcome to the DFS Build NBA Edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith, getting ready to go over the DraftKings main slate. Only a 5-game slate, so could be interesting, or judging by the weekend, and MLK Day could be absolutely horrible. But hopefully we can point you in the right direction. That is the goal every time. We break down the slate, go by position, and highlight the top plays of the slate. If we do help you out in any way, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also join our Discord. We deliver updated core plays leading into the slate, and also we and the rest of the community are just there to help you win. If we do help you win, also consider doing a super thanks donation at the bottom of this, or just right underneath this video. All right, let's get to it, Taylor. Starting at point guard, Jalen Brunson leads the way with a 46-point fantasy projection. He was pretty darn good in his last game. Cat is probable, though, so he won't necessarily benefit from a bunch of extra usage. Regardless, he projects as the best guy here. So how much interest do you have in Brunson up top?
Not really a lot, but he's always okay. He's played a little bit better lately. The matchup's really good against Brooklyn. I just think there are other ways to go at point guard. Scotty Barnes would be someone I would prioritize over Jalen Brunson as of now, depending on the Towns thing. Obviously, if Towns is out, Brunson looks a lot better, but I'm not anticipating Towns to be out because I think he's probable.
Yeah, so I agree. Barnes looks a little bit better, save $500. Not that I really love playing guys against the Magic, but as we know, the Magic are not as stingy as normal because no Suggs or Franz Wagner, and they don't have Goga Batadze down low either. So it's not as bad of a matchup as we are accustomed to seeing. So I do like Scotty Barnes. There's a couple other Raptors on our radar. Sticking at point guard, you can pay up for 10K for Max if you really want to. I just don't think I'm going to. Of course, I said that last time, and Maxey, of course, went nuts. But still, at 9.9K, I just don't think he is a value up top at this point. Hero is questionable, so keep that on your radar. At 8.3K against the Blazers, Hero would be a good play. But Jordan Poole feels like a better value for 1.1K less. Jamal Murray also looks pretty darn good. And then Austin Reeves at 8K looks really good. He's fine even if Anthony Davis is in, but with Anthony Davis questionable, it's possible Austin Reeves could be an absolute smash play on this slate. So what do you think about those guys, and are you dropping down to the mid-range a bit more than usual based on who's on the slate here?
Yeah, I'm not really on Maxey. If George is in, he would get a boost if George is out, but not the greatest spot. They're pretty big underdogs against Denver. This slate has a lot of lopsided spreads.
Yeah, like every game except for the Magic game, right?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, I would think Toronto should be favored in that game, but they're not. So I do like that game quite a bit. And like you said, Orlando without Goga is not very good defensively. Like, he's one of the better rim protectors in the league. So him being out's good for Barnes. It's good for RJ, good for everyone on the Toronto side. But I do love Poole. I think dollar for dollar, Poole is my favorite point guard on the slate. The Lakers are not good defensively, particularly against guards. Poole, obviously pretty boom or bust, as we've seen with those game logs right there. But
look at those last 2 games. It says it all.
I think they have a pretty good chance of keeping the game competitive just because the Lakers are not very good. So if the Wizards are going to stick around, Poole's going to have a lot to do with it. I think his salary is pretty cheap, 7.2. Looks pretty good to me. Jamal Murray, same thing. I like the spot against the Sixers, who are without Embiid. Could be without Drummond, Yabusele. They could just be really thin again up front. So it's a good spot for Murray, who's been playing well lately. I think Westbrook is pretty sneaky too at 6.4. His price has come down a bit. Hasn't been quite as good over the last few games, but still playing a starting role, still has triple-double upside. You're not going to find a lot of players in that range who can do that. So if you're not playing Murray, I think Russ at 1K, at a 1K discount, is pretty intriguing. Yeah,
if you look at projection alone, I think of that group of guys, though, Poole is the one that stands out the most for me. He is my favorite point guard play of the entire slate, just because the matchup is pretty good. The Lakers are not very good against guards in general. Lakers just aren't good defensively. So this game has a really high total, and I do not really buy into this 14-point spread here. Like, what are the Lakers, some titans of the NBA at this point? No. So, and also if Brow is out, like, how is this game living up to that spread? Not at all, in my opinion. So I'm with you. I like Poole a lot, I like the Wizards a lot. I just really like the idea of stacking that game because obviously the guys on the Lakers side also look very appealing because the Wizards are the best possible matchup on this slate. So right there with you. If we want to keep going down and save some cash, we can look at somebody like D'Lo with no Ben Simmons. The minutes limit is still there, but he does have a good usage rate. He is a good points per minute guy. So I
he's a
don't mind
good
him.
value for sure. Like
Yeah.
on FanDuel, he's 7.4. On DK, he's 5.8.
Yikes.
He's way underpriced.
I don't think I want to do 7.4 on FanDuel, but 5.8K for D'Lo against the Knicks, who, as we've said many times, are much worse against the 3-point line than they have been in the past. So I think he's a little interesting for sure. Projects pretty darn well. We can keep going down here because, which, by the way, Cole Anthony's questionable. If Cole Anthony is in, I think he's fine. I think you're getting a little bit up there at 6.5K for Cole Anthony, but the Raptors are bad. He's been pretty good. He has a role. So all that stuff is true. I'm okay with him. At that price point, I don't think he's a core play for me. Like, I'd rather look at the ownership discrepancy between him and Russ. Like, I'm very interested in going with your Russ call as opposed to a chalky Cole Anthony if he's in, right?
I think
But if
I would love Cole Anthony if he wasn't ill, but he has an illness
Yeah.
tag, like a midday downgrade. That's kind of scary. So if he plays, I might bring
Not
him
good.
down a little bit just because there's no telling how he's actually going to be. I do think the rest is like really good one. $100 discount.
Yeah. So if Cole is out, Anthony Black suddenly becomes really appealing at 4.4K. Certainly, it's not a guy we thought we'd be feeling good about at this stage of the season, but 4.4K, he's been getting good minutes. He's actually been pretty productive. And obviously, he has the same matchup against Toronto, which is really, really good. Another guy in the same price range would be Bub Carrington at 4.2K. I already said I really like the Wizards, and he's too cheap for the minutes and the matchup. So I think he's pretty good. Obviously, Black projects a little bit better. And because of that, he'll carry a little bit of ownership. I think you could play both of them together. I don't really mind that. But I think if I had to pick one at this point, I think I'd favor Carrington just because I like that game environment a little bit more. Terry Rozier at 4.8K could be pretty darn good if Tyler Hero is out. He's viable anyways at that price, but even with Jimmy back, I'm not as interested if Hero ends up playing. I don't think there's anybody else that I see that I have to get to down here. But point guard is not like the auto play, chase the stud kind of thing like it has been in recent slates. This feels like a center and forward targeting slate for me.
Yeah, it's still better than the forward spots and shooting guard on this slate. It's not a very good slate in general. Like, it's really ugly in terms of the teams we're getting and the spreads we're getting. So I agree. It's not a very strong position. I think if Black really gets steamed up, which he could if Cole Anthony's out, then Carrington looks even better because his ownership's going to come down a bit.
Yep.
As of now, they look kind of even in terms of projected ownership. But, if Anthony's out, that's an early game. We don't have this Lakers game until 10:30 Eastern. So I think Carrington at what could be single-digit ownership is pretty damn good at 4.2 on DK.
Yeah, and by the way, if Cole is out, I would just feel a lot better about Banchero than anything else. Like, I don't think Anthony Black is some must. Obviously, he's a very solid value.
If he comes off the bench at ownership, like if Cole Anthony is in and Anthony Black is playing off the bench, if he's still going to be owned, that's not my kind of play, and I think you can fade it completely.
Oh, for sure. I do think, though, even if he starts, if he's going to be super owned, we can certainly consider just a direct pivot to Carrington and not feel that bad about it, because you're still getting a really good play at a similar price point. And Anthony Black historically is not the most amazing point per minute guy, so it would not be shocking at all, even if starting with no Cole, for Anthony Black to completely fail you. That said, he is a solid value.
Trevelin Queen, like if Cole Anthony's out, Trevelin Queen at 3.7, both guard spot eligible, already playing a role like low 20s minutes per game, would be a lot more interesting if Cole Anthony's out.
Yeah, we could certainly look to the Magic value for sure in that case. What
about
KCP
it's a bad slate when
4K?
we're looking at Orlando value?
I know. Well, hey,
the best value on the
there
slate.
are already bodies out. There's no Suggs, there's no Wagner, there's no Goga. Like, there's already minutes and usage to be had. So if you get take away further minutes here and the playmaking and shooting with the, that Cole brings to the table, you can look at Queen. You can look at KCP. KCP is only 4K, played 35 minutes his last game. It's not like a great per minute play, but I think he's definitely on the table here if Cole doesn't play.
Yep.
All right. So speaking of which, shooting guard's awful. So we have questionable Tyler Hero leading the way. Obviously, if Hero plays, you can definitely play him at 8.3. His price has come down. The matchup with Portland is nice. Jimmy being back kind of curbs his ceiling a little bit, but not so much to the point that I wouldn't consider him at 8.3. The obvious issue is we don't know if he's going to play. That said, Poole and Murray just look better. They're $1,000 cheaper. They project about the same. Poole just feels like the definite play and pivot away from Hero there. Or the ownership's kind of split here, which is kind of nice, honestly, because you can just go into lock without worrying about ownership that much. And you already mentioned Murray. I'm with you there. That's a good price on him. Cole Anthony, we touched on. We touched on D'Lo too. Good price on D'Lo, solid value there. Is there anybody else outside of that pack of guys that you're interested in, like as far as spending money at shooting guard?
Paul George, if he's in, is still in the 8K range, like he's been for quite a while now. He's missed the last couple games with some kind of malady, but if he plays, I assume he won't be super limited. Denver's defense has not been as good the last couple of years since they've lost some guys this season, especially without KCP. So I think Paul George is still someone you can get to if he's in, and we don't hear that he's on a strict limit. Otherwise, Poole, D'Angelo Russell, Cole Anthony, Jamal Murray, all the same guys we talked about at point guard. Hero as well. Was Hero? Did he have an injury or was he illness? Do you know?
Let me check. He is questionable with a right groin injury. Soreness.
Okay. So if he's in, I don't think he'll be limited. If he was ill, I'd be a little more nervous about it, but not the case. Otherwise,
I also think he's a pretty good tourney play.
Yeah, he is a good play. Like it's kind of a cheapish price tag. Jimmy's back, so not ideal, but Portland's horrible, so of course you can play him.
Yeah, he put up 48 fantasy points against them earlier this year, so there's that. Also, going down here, there is good value. I like Max Christie, gets good minutes. He starts for the Lakers, only 4.3K against the Wizards. Like, you can't ask for a better spot. Obviously, he has a low floor, a little bit erratic, but I think he's a really good value on this slate, and he's small forward eligible, so that's cool. Grady Dick is okay, but I prefer Christie in that same price range. Kelly Oubre could look pretty good, even though his prices come up a little bit if Paul George is out. I think he's in play anyways because there's no Embiid, but I would probably prefer George to be out to pay 6.3 for him. Simons is questionable again, so we could look to Shadon Sharp, even though his minutes projection and overall projection don't look great. I would imagine if Simons misses, he would still be a pretty good play at 6.2K. Christian Brown, big minutes for him, 4.5K. I think that's another good value. So I would just look at some of these guys who all look very similar and just play the ownership game. Like I don't see what really differentiates guys like Brown and Grady Dick and Anthony Black that much besides matchup and possibly the ownership. So if one guy is going to be mega owned, I'm just going to look to Bub and Brown instead.
Yeah, I prefer Bruce Brown to Christian Brown. Bruce Brown is 3-4, and he's playing minutes for Toronto off the bench. I think he and Dick are both good values individually. The issue is they kind of negatively correlate. They've only played 21 minutes on the floor together all season, so they're both good values. I like them both. I would probably make a rule to only get one of them just because they're not going to likely share the floor too much. But both are cheap with good roles in that good game that we like, so I think that's okay. KCP is projected to be popular, not into that. Like if he's going to be owned, I'm happy to not play him at all. Just not the kind of guy that's going to kill you with a ceiling if he's super popular.
I didn't realize he was going to be 26% owned. Yeah, okay. If he's going to be chalk, then no, I don't want KCP. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, like what's KCP have to do to bury you if the field has him and you don't? Like, is he going to get 35 or 40 fantasy points? It's very hard to imagine that.
Seems unlikely. Yeah, he'd have to really be on fire. It is the It is the Raptors, though. You just never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just take a shot on like Duncan Robinson or Corey Kispert, like same guys in the same price range who aren't going to be quite as chalky.
Yeah, Duncan Robinson's a pretty cool call too, because at 4.1K, he should start. And then if Hero's out, he's just going to see more usage and even some playmaking ability, which, by the way, he got like 8 assists or 7 assists 2 games ago. What was that all about? I don't know. So he looks pretty good as an option if we get the Hero news early. All these first sets of games, the first 3 games all start at 7:30 Eastern. So we will get that news. So I think Duncan Robinson will probably end up being pretty darn chalky if Hero is out, but that would feel like better chalk than KCP, although they're kind of similar players. Is there anybody else down? By the way, I like the Bruce Brown call. I talked about him a couple slates ago, and he ended up panning out with like 25 fantasy points. Still is only 3.4K. I think we're in alignment there. I agree. I prefer him over Grady Dick just because the savings. I think Dick is fine at 4.2K, but at 3.4, Bruce Brown is a little bit easier to get in there and maybe get some studs. All right. So is there anybody else in that Bruce Brown range that you like?
Not really that low. Like Strother would be the other one, but I don't really think he's a great play on this slate. So Dick is a pretty good play just because he's cheap. The minutes ceiling for him is not nearly as high with Bruce Brown in. Like, he hasn't played 30 in a while. So
He also
yeah,
hasn't
that's
been
why I would,
closing games a lot either, so that's
yeah,
worrisome.
that's why I wouldn't play him and Bruce together, just because pretty unlikely they're both going to completely smash in the same game. So
Yeah,
otherwise, no, we can find value at small forward, but not much else. I do think Max Christie, like you said, is a very strong play.
yeah, absolutely. He's going to be. I mean, he is borderline core play for me right now as things stand. He looks
What could
pretty
go wrong?
good. Yeah. Yeah. What could go wrong? I don't think his ownership's out of control yet, though, so that's nice. I think he's at like 15 or
20.
11. Hopefully it stays.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. So at small forward, RJ Barrett looks amazing. The 46-point fantasy projection leads the way. Scotty Barnes for 800 more. Obviously, if you want to just trust the projections and look at the salary, I think Scotty Barnes is the play there. But if that is where the field goes, you certainly can entertain eating 800 more and getting Barnes. Josh Hart, Paul George, they're in that kind of same price range, also coming in with good projections. Hart gets to face the Nets. That's cool. Paul George has been very, very effective with no Embiid as far as like a fantasy production perspective and per minute. So all these guys look really good. Obviously, with the projection, Barrett's the one that looks the best to me. And then I'd probably just go to Hart just because he's cheaper than Barnes and George, and the match with the Nets is Nets. Match with the Nets looks pretty good. Usually I get a little bit more excited about Knicks when somebody is out, but not with Hart. Hart just gets like 40 minutes and does everything. So honestly, feels like he's a little bit underrated in this regard. So he looks pretty good.
Yeah. Barrett is the one that looks the best, like under 8K. Minutes in competitive games generally pretty safe, super good per minute. He and Scotty are both at 1.28 points per minute without quickly. Tons of ball handling. Like we said, the matchup against Orlando is not nearly as scary right now given their injuries. So I think they're both awesome plays. I prefer Barrett dollar for dollar, but Barnes does have the guard forward eligibility, which makes him pretty useful. Hart, I agree on that one as well. Christie, you can play here. Really thins out after that. Like, the other Knicks are fine, OG and Bridges, but I prefer them to be a little bit cheaper. I do think Jimmy is playable. If he's playable anyway, but I think if Hero's out, it becomes a lot more interesting. But we just never really know. You never know what you're going to get. Like, is he going to try? We don't know.
If Hero's out, I'd be willing to risk it. If Hero's in, I don't think I'd do that. It just seems unnecessary when you can get very, very solid plays for 200 or 400 more, Just why? Unless he's going to go completely berserk and get like 81 like he did that one day. So it's always possible. What about value here down low? We do have minutes wise, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby just continue to just be okay. Like, they play the whole game, so you can certainly entertain them against the Nets if the game stays close. MPJ always gets overlooked. I think he's okay. Denny Avdia, what is with the minutes projection on these Blazers guys?
What does it say? I can't see what you.
Well, Shadon Sharp and Denny Avdia specifically are projected for 27 minutes.
Yeah, well, with everybody in, like, we haven't seen them with everybody in for a while. Like, Simons missed the last game, Avdia missed games before that. So it's kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
We didn't mention Scoot at point guard, but if Simons is out, Scoot's certainly playable again, even at an elevated salary. I think Avdia, if Simons is out, looks really good again, even though he's priced up. But if Simons is in, I don't know. I don't think I could pay a premium for Avdia against Miami.
I mean, his price has come down a little bit. I honestly don't mind him if he's going to be a contrarian play. If he's going to be 20% or more owned like he is right now, I think I'm on board with you. Because we don't know what they look like with Simons and Jeremy and all these guys back in there. That is true. But at 6.8K, I do like the price. If we can hope for the 35 minutes he's accustomed to, getting, that would be nice. The price on Scoot, though, like, he's a good play in general, but 6.9K for Scoot just doesn't make him a priority. Certainly good GPP play, though.
If Simons is in, you can't play Scoot off the bench at 7K.
No. Of course not. Koulibaly at 5.4K. I like him quite a bit. His projection does not blow you away, but Wizards and Lakers, man, I think it looks pretty good. He usually gets pretty good minutes. He's 30 plus minutes. He's probably going to get. He's very low floor, not always super productive, but the matchup I think is good enough, and his price is good enough that I do like it. Really Hachimura at 5K. If we can expect no Brow, he would look pretty good. If no Hero, I think Jaime Jaquez would be okay at 5.1. But I probably would lean more towards Rozier or Duncan Robinson. Not seeing anybody else that I have to play. Keyshawn George, baby, 3.7. I think he's okay. He's not really a very good player,
like him.
but he's been getting pretty good minutes here, 23, 30, 31, 20, 25. So he does have a ceiling. It's there. Is he going to deliver it when you actually play him? I don't know. But he's viable. If Paul George is out, Ricky Council forever remains a solid play. Even at 4.5K, I do not mind it. He's been pretty good. So he looks good. Just make sure you know who's starting for the Sixers, because Underdog was having a tough time the other day when they issued 3 starting lineups. So but that's probably all I see that's really worth mentioning until we know anything else.
I think if Tristan da Silva, another low usage, low per minute Magic guy, is popular like he is right now, just another guy you can consider fading. What are the odds that he's going to nuke you? He's not that cheap. He's not very good. He has a role, but that's really all you can say about it. I think I would rather play Keyshawn George. I think I'd rather play Christian Brown. I think I'd rather play even Corey Kispert or Tosani Woma. I think with Zaire Williams and Ben Simmons and Cam Thomas out, Tosani Woma might have a decent role. He's already been playing a decent role for Brooklyn. Decent per minute guy, 20-ish, 25 minutes, something like that. He's 3.9. I think he's viable as well.
Feels great.
Yeah, this is the worst
I agree though. They have a lot of dead bodies over there for Brooklyn, so we can consider. I mean, I feel a lot better about taking a Nets punt than paying a big price for a net and hoping they have some massive role, because as we've seen, the Nets don't really care about winning that much. So that even if a guy starts, they'll play 20 minutes and you'll be like, Keon Johnson, come back in the game, and no, he won't. All right, so over to power forward we go. LeBron James leads the way with a 51-point fantasy projection. He looks awesome against the Wizards, and there's also Banchero right behind him. So if you're going to pay up top at power forward, which one of those guys do you prefer?
I think I actually prefer Paolo. Matchup's really good. I prefer AD to LeBron. Don't really want to play them together. I think a lot of people will. So kind of splitting up that chalk is something I want to do. Paolo, minutes have been shaky since he came back, but they're going to go up eventually. They've had a few days off. They could go up tonight. They're shorthanded. Matchup's great. At half the ownership maybe of LeBron, I prefer Paolo.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, especially if James is going to be chalky. Hart, obviously, we already touched on. Down low, Kuzma, the minutes are not amazing, but 6K for Kuzma in that matchup looks pretty good. Sarr, same deal. Khalil Ware is looking like a really good value and popping quite a bit. Why don't you give your thoughts on him and if you like Kuz or Sarr?
I prefer Sarr. I think the value on him is pretty good on DK at 5.5, just pretty cheap. Ware played alongside Bam the other day for the first time all season. Previously, that he's been backing him up exclusively. Saw some ceiling there. That was against San Antonio. Obviously, you need some length in that matchup. But they are playing Portland, who has a pretty big starting lineup tonight as well. We could see Ware play more minutes. It's not a lock that he plays anything more than the backup minutes. So if he's owned by half the field, there's an argument to fade him. But he's very good per minute. He's cheap. He has power forward, which is useful today. So as of now, I don't have a ton of qualms with it, but the ownership could get a little out of control.
Yeah, so far Jovic is the one who's taking the ownership, so he's 4.9K. There is that. Is there anybody down low, a punt that you like at power forward?
I think you can consider Boucher and Robert Williams. Robert Williams, again, not a great play, but he is the minimum, so it's okay. Boucher, if you get him right, can completely win you a slate. The floor for him is very low, but 3.5, good per minute. He's had some pretty big games lately. You never know with him, but that's the kind of guy I don't mind rolling the dice on in a tournament.
Yeah, I think if I was going to pick one of them, I would probably go Time Lord just because he is the flat min right now. All right, over to center, wrap things up. Obviously, we have some really good options here. Nikola Jokic with the best projection of the slate. There's also a questionable Anthony Davis, and then Cat at 9.7K. All these guys have arguments. Which one do you like the most?
AD, but he's going to be the chalkiest of the three. Jokic might face a team without Embiid or Drummond or Yabusele. So if it's Jokic against Adem Bona and Pete Nance, I would love that. Towns is going to be the lowest owned of the three, and Brooklyn's not a good defense at all. Certainly, he was pretty frosty yesterday, but he's going to play a ton of minutes. The matchup's good. He's the cheapest of the three also, so I like Towns quite a bit.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to go with the ownership thing here. Like, if Jokic is going to be not very owned, I think I'll just smash Jokic all day. We do have enough value on a pretty ugly slate that we can get to that comfortably. That said, these other two guys look amazing. Do you have any interest in anybody mid-range? Obviously, Wendell Carter looks really good at 5.9K with a nice projection against the Raptors, and Jakob Poeltl's too cheap. What do you think about those guys and anybody else in that price range?
Yeah, I love them both. Pirtle's going to be under-owned, I think. He's been better without Quickly all season. Yabusele, if he's in with no Drummond in theory and no Embiid, is 5.3. I think that's a pretty good value also.
Yeah, any punts at center that you're entertaining besides Ware?
Robert Williams, that's about it. Sarr's okay
Okay.
too, like we talked about.
All right, cool. So, all right, let's wrap it up with our flag plant and general strategy of the night.
Off Black playing RJ Barrett. I think the Raptors are in a really good spot today. Not going to be as owned as he should be. And I'll split up the Lakers stars, LeBron and AD. I think they're going to be both quite popular. So splitting them up is one way to get different.
All right, yeah, I'm in full agreement based on the projections. He looks amazing. I think my other flag plant is going to be two-pronged. It's going to be going over on the Banchero ownership. If Cole is in, maybe I won't eat into that so much. The other one's going to be Poole. Really like the Lakers-Wizards game. If I can stack that game without forcing it, if it comes about naturally, I like that quite a bit. All right, hopefully this helps you out. If it does, smash that like button. Also subscribe to the channel and join our Discord so we can help you win some money. Thanks for watching and good luck.